So where's your money?
Well, you know, like, I mean, that's, my money right now is in, I've parked a lot of it with Warren Buffett because I think he's not only the most intelligent, but one of the more honest investors. But like everybody else, well, on one hand, you could say, well, I'm a hypocrite because I do speculation in certain areas, and I don't believe speculation is an honest way to make money. However, it's the way that's out, you know, it's just part of the environment right now, and it's almost hard to avoid. But there's certain commodities I speculate in because I know they'll be volatile enough to produce a profit with very little thought. And I am perfectly qualified for anything that requires very little thought. One has to do what one can. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to challenge that notion that there's something inherently wrong with speculation because it's an opportunity to make a lot of money, but it's also usually when you're talking about something speculative, an opportunity to lose a lot of money too. Yeah. So there is a balancing factor built into it. I think the problem you asked in the early part of the talk, why would anybody buy these things, referring to the derivatives and the monetarized mortgage instruments? Well, the reason that people were buying them, I think, was primarily twofold. One, the risk, which was genuine, was hidden by the risk evaluation measurements, which they had concocted, which were completely wrong and disguised the risk rather than correctly evaluating it. And two, they were backed up by the government. So if something went wrong, the government was going to bail you out. Those were two major distortions in the proper functioning of the market, because when the market is functioning properly, I would say that speculation is a perfectly legitimate activity. You're going for a big prize, but you're taking a big risk. So, you know, you're taking your chances.
Let me tell you what I mean by a speculative instrument. It's an instrument where there's a winner and a loser on the same transaction. Now, an investment instrument, that is actually giving money to an entrepreneur to expand business, everybody either wins or loses. Either the investment is successful and there's nothing but winners, and there's more products available in the economy, there's more jobs, et cetera, et cetera. The investor gets paid, the entrepreneur gets paid. Or there's nothing but losers. The business fails, and the whole thing is wiped out, the debt is wiped out, it's just gone. A speculative instrument is something where the gains of one side are measured precisely by the losses of the other side. There's no net social product, okay? So if you take, now sometimes, I mean, the line is not always clear, but sometimes it is clear. If you take a CDS, if it's an insurance instrument on a bond that you own, it's just insurance. It's a real product. When you start buying CDSs on bonds you don't own or on other equities you don't own, it's a bet. You either lose your investment or the bond goes belly up and you make your investment. But in either case, there's a winner and a loser on the same transaction. And that's what happened. They wrote trillions in the area of $600 trillion worth of CDSs, not to people who owned anything, but to people who were just treating them as bets. A CDS is kind of like an insurance policy on some kind of equity, on some kind of instrument. You can compare it to insurance on your house. Okay, you buy insurance on your house, but you hope your house never actually burns down, that you never actually collect on that insurance policy. But now suppose thousands and thousands of people bought an insurance policy on your house. They didn't own the house. Okay. They're just betting that perhaps because you smoke in bed, you know, you're going to burn that thing down. And they're going to collect a lot of money. Well, that's what CDSs were. They're useful if you're insuring your own investments, instruments, like insuring your own house. But when thousands of people are betting on failure, there's a built-in incentive to failure. Okay? There's a winner when the house burns down. And that's an example of speculation that has really no social utility. Yes, you can make money. Yes, you can lose money. But gains and losses always equal 0.
But would people have bought so many of them if they didn't know the government was backing them?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. But I still think the biggest reason was that there are no good investments in the real economy. Yes?
You talked earlier about credit, fraud, borrowed money, everything like that. How about this big entity we got called the government? That, you know, the only way we're going to get out of the mess we're in is either going to be to raise taxes, or it's going to be to cut spending, or it's going to be to print money. Okay? We don't have the political courage to do the first two. No politician will ever get elected. Okay? So what the government's going to be doing is they're going to be lulling you to sleep with this insidious, invisible tax. Okay, called printing money, which is going to, at some point down the line, probably going to lead us into hyperinflation. Okay, then what we're going to do? You talk about the corporations collapsing in 5 years. What's the government going to be doing in 5 years? And final point on that: don't you think maybe we're seeing the tip of the iceberg with things like the Tea Party right now?
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly which iceberg. You could take that both ways. There are.
Well, I thought about being disgruntled with government. I think people are just getting fed up with it and just.
Yeah, of course, that's been a staple of conversation my whole life, and well, I'm older. I'm not old enough to remember the first Tea Party, but I'm old enough to remember a lot of movements like this. So, what's different about the Tea Party is the rhetoric and the sort of the lack of focus on it. However, on your first question on money, I think there's a lot of confusion on that. People are expecting an inflationary cycle. I see the bigger danger of a deflationary cycle. Remember, you talk about the creation of money. The creation of money is done not by the government. The government does not create money, except for coins. The banks create money. There's where the problem lays. It's in the fractional reserve system. Even when the government does create money, it does so through the agency of the Federal Reserve Bank. But I take very skeptically the calls for the belief in hyperinflation. If government collapse, you'll see a deflationary cycle, not an inflationary cycle. At least historically, that's what you see in collapses. Inflation is compatible with a great economy. In the 70s, we had double-digit inflation, and I mean, it was booming. It was going and blowing.
We don't have the demand today that's going to fuel inflation. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think the more probable scenario is stagflation.
Well, deflation. Well, deflation is always stagnant. Yeah, deflation's a bigger problem, I think. But I say that because people are selling certain instruments to guard against hyperinflation, like gold. I mean, if there's anybody over the age of 13 who hasn't gotten 5 solicitations to buy gold, then you know, per day, and it's all based on, I think, an entirely flawed theory. And I think these people, these is a speculative investment that I think most people will lose.